RPO car has been sitting there all day in the sun. There's no air conditioning. So you go to work about 4 o'clock. You climb in the car, immediately perspiration. I mean, if they want a diet, that's what they could use, you know. So, but that's, I believe I was washing chick. We went to Pittsburgh, and I didn't do anything but bull work all the way, lifting stuff, because as a substitute, you really don't know much. You know, they send you out in these different trains, and you help out the best you can. Mm-hmm. I'd lose 10 pounds going to Pittsburgh. I grant you it was mostly water, I suppose. But, and then the catches, they were something that threw you to the railway mail service. Oh boy, I can't wait to make a catch and throw a pouch off, you know. Mm-hmm. So on the Western Maryland, the train would maybe go 60 miles an hour, and it was rather simple, you know. New York, Bolton, Wash, maybe 75, 80 miles an hour. It's going a little faster. And this one time, I made the catch, and I made most of my catches on that train between Baltimore and Washington, like Laurel, Hyattsville, I can't remember all of them. And those towns were beginning to grow, nothing like they are now, but they were beginning to grow, and the catcher pouches were getting bigger and bigger and heavier and heavier. And at one time, I tried to make the catch. The next thing I knew, the catcher arm come out of the restraining. A few seconds, I could have fell off the train, you know, went right through. But, well, I just stood there and put it back in. But then on the main line in New York and Wash, the Penn Central, he's going, now somebody could check me on this and tell me I'm wrong, but I swear he's going 90 miles an hour. And when you look out, it's not like looking out on the Western Maryland. This thing is bumping and rocking and shifting, and you have trouble seeing the catch, you know. Where on the Western Maryland, it's like a walk in the park, you know. But the first time you catch him on the main line, you're shook up a little bit, you know. Let me tell you about your first trip.
Okay.
My first trip was out of Jersey City, the New York, Bolton, Wash. And I still remember the clerk in charge's name. He was an Irish gentleman, nice gentleman named Mr. Murphy. And the second clerk who worked the rear of the car was another Irishman. I forget his name, but he looked like a member of the Irish Mafia. And he acted like it too. But anyway, Murphy said, go back and help. I'm going to call him Donovan. Go back and help Donovan. So I said, Mr. Donovan, and Mr. Murphy said, I'm going to help you. And Donovan said, in no uncertain terms, I don't want your, I won't say the rest of it, help. You don't know nothing. What are you going to do? I mean, you're useless, you know. So I go back to Murphy. I say, I'm sort of an innocent guy. I go back to Murphy. I said, Mr. Murphy doesn't want my help. That's an order. You're to help Mr. Donovan. So I said to myself, what group of people am I with here, you know? So I'm back to Donovan. I convinced him I could help him. I could dump up. I could do this or do that. So when we got off the train in Washington, he said, you ever been to Washington? And I said, no. He said, you know where to eat? You know where to sleep? This is this mean guy, supposedly. No. Well, come with me. He took care of me, you know. So it was all, and they turned out to be very, very good fellows. Great majority of them wanted to do the best they could. And let me see if I can think anything else.
Well, tell us a little bit about some of the things you brought.
Let me tell you the best thing. They probably don't know this in headquarters yet. Maybe they do. But most of these crews loved to play poker. And if you worked all the mail, and you worked it in the right manner, you don't slough any off, you know, then you could play poker. Now this meant that the crew in New York and Wash would work like madmen, like dogs, for 10 hours to play cards for 5 minutes. You know, so now this is a great incentive I'm offering the post office, you know. So let these boys, they work all the mail, give them a little break, for God's sakes, you know. So anyway, one day we went up the road, and our clerk in charge was Leon Dade. He wasn't a big man, but he was a tough man. He was African-American, and he was a hard guy, but human. I've seen the human side of him, too. But anyway, we went up the road, and we didn't work all in New York City. We went stuck. They call it going stuck. Well, if you went stuck, you didn't play cards. That's unwritten rule, you know. But some of the fellas, big men too, they were, some of them. They start setting up the card table, and Leon said, you know the rules. No playing cards if you go stuck. Oh, Leon, you know we worked hard tonight. They did work hard. They probably worked harder and worked more mail than normally. But no, they went stuck. They went stuck. Oh, we're not going to pay attention to Leon. They set the card table up. They start shuffling the cards. Leon says, well, fellas, just to show there's no hard feelings, let me shuffle the cards. Oh, good, Leon. Oh, Leon's all right. Oh, Leon's going to. So Leon starts shuffling the cards, makes his way over to the door, opens the door. We're going through the New Jersey meadows or someplace, you know. Throws the cards out the door. He said, you go stuck, you don't play cards. And they said to him, we're going to tell the union, Leon. Yeah, you tell the union. You go up to the front office and tell them what you're up to, you know. We had some good times, you know. And it was every night was like a game. You know, you're going to work all the mail. You're going to get all the Jersey work. You're going to come in south. You're going to have all the Maryland work. There was always push, 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 you know. But it wasn't stressful. It was healthy. It was healthy. And every day was a new day. And this trip I made here, I have the trip report. We went stuck in Washington. We went stuck about 5 pouches. And I saw the reason. I just read it over. We got quite a bit of mail from places who misdirected it, missed the train in front of us, and we picked it up. So we had a reason. You know, you have to have a reason. Oh, and I discovered a word. I'm trying to remember it. It covered a multitude of sins. Inadvertently. I mean, if you put that in a letter, like the guy put the mail off at the wrong station, he inadvertently did this. You usually never hear anything more about it. Let's see, anything else about the happy days? And they were happy days. I didn't mind going to work. You know.
What were the different jobs that you would do?
The subbing was bad because you never knew what you were doing. You know, they'd try to assign you something where you'd help somebody else, you know, but sometimes they couldn't, and like they put me on Pennsylvania letters. I didn't know the first thing about it. The only thing I know about Pennsylvania was Philadelphia, Harrisburg, and Pittsburgh. That's about all I knew, you know, and you'd get up there, and then I ran with a fella, an old guy. He had these catcher pouches. He didn't have any labels on them. You know, it was the first time I was on his train, no labels in his pouches, you know. Heinemann or someplace, you know. And I'd have to look inside, and, well, is that Heinemann, you know? And he'd be insulting me all the time, telling me how stupid I was, you know. What are you going to do, you know? I wasn't as smart as him. He knew what was in there. Yeah, that was him. And who else now? I don't know. But let me see what I got here. See if I got any notes.
I was going to say, did you ever have any run-ins with the inspectors?
Oh, that's a good story.
Yeah.
On the wash, we had a Jewish fella. He was a register clerk. They were expensive things and money and so forth and so on. But anyway, he had a brother who lived in Long Island and sold boxes. So he once or twice or 3 times a week, he would buy a case of whiskey in Washington, because it was cheap in Washington, and he'd bring it on the RPO and put it under his feet. And when he got off at New York, he'd take it in with his registers and give it to his brother. His brother sold boxes, usually at parties where people were drinking. They didn't know what they were buying, you know. So anyway, we're going up the road from Washington. Right outside of Baltimore, we hit another train, knocked the windows out, and knocked some wood off or something, you know, but didn't do any damage. But anyway, one of the fellas said to the clerk in charge, whose nickname was Spit. They had different names for people. I don't know what they called me, and I don't want to know. But he says to Spit, "My nerves are shot from this collision with this car. I need a drink. And I know Gottlieb has plenty of booze under his feet there." So Gottlieb said, "No, I'm not going to open any bottle. If I open one bottle, I want the whole case." "No, I think they should have a drink. The men are nervous. They're all broke up about this so-called wreck, you know." So finally they broke it open. Well, some people can't drink. This one fella, he wound up on the floor. I think he sniffed the bottle. He passed out. He was laying on the floor. And sure enough, here come the inspector. He sticks his head in and he looks at this guy on the floor and he says, "Uh-oh." So he says, he calls in. He says, "Is that man on the floor all right, Chief?" They call him Chief. "Oh, yeah, he's all right. He's resting up after the wreck, you know." And some of the men complained about nerves being shot, and I thought it a good idea to give him some medicine, you know, help him out. So the inspector says, "Well, tell me this. Anybody hurt?" "No." "Any mail damage?" "No." "Any this, any that? The registers are all right?" "Yes, yes, yes." "That's all I want to know." He says, "If I get into this mess, I'll be writing for a year." So he's not going to. So that was a great train wreck. Then on the Chick-a-Grafton, there was quite a few coal trains down there, and they rolled back and forth, and you're liable to open the door and the safety bar's gone, you know. Just hit it a little bit, you know, take it off like butter, you know. But yeah, it was great. And the guys were swell. Most of them were swell. Most of them did the best they could. You had to learn these schemes and schedules, and they would argue nicely. They would discuss, where so-and-so went in North Carolina. Did you give it to this end of the road or the other end of the road? And they'd come up with different arguments and so forth, or reasons, you know. So it was, they were a happy group. Yeah. I'd go today if I was able. I mean, if they called me. I've been waiting ever since. Had my grip up there for 26 years. Yeah, see what else I got here for you, if anything.
I was going to say, Bob, do you remember your very last run? Do you remember your very last run?
I believe I do. I was, what they call me, General Foreman then they call me. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't senior man, but the senior men didn't want to work as foreman or general foreman. They were going to retire shortly. So I was the most senior man that would work the job, you know. So I enjoyed it very much. And you learned quite a bit. When you were just a clerk, like coming south, I worked Maryland. And that's your baby. You don't realize the general foreman's got Maryland to worry about, Virginia, Georgia, West Virginia, Washington, Baltimore. So when you become general foreman, you begin to appreciate the general foreman and the foreman. You know, you begin to realize there's more to this train than Maryland, old buddy. You know, so it was good. And I think years and years ago, the railroads probably served every little hamlet. I mean, it was all railroad, you know. And then the trucks started and the air mail and so forth. For instance, when I was in Camp Polk, Louisiana in 1943, I caught a train from Alexandria, Louisiana to Little Rock. Little Rock to St. Louis. St. Louis to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh to Washington, Washington to Baltimore. I don't know how long it took me to get home, but
How many years were you working as an RPO clerk?
Ma'am?
Bob, how many years did you work as an RPO clerk?
I worked about 15 years. And then I was promoted to, they had a test in the post office. Here's another thing. I used to go up to New York, and I had plenty of time. So I'd go to this little library, and I went to the main library. I couldn't find nothing. I went to this little library around 200th Street, New York, and I went to the library, and I started studying these ARCO books and learning the meaning of words and learning how to do mathematical, like mixing nuts. You ever have them thing? Or this train leaves 10 o'clock here, this one leaves 8, this one stopped, blah, blah, blah. Or I'm supposed to meet Marion under the clock and at 10 o'clock, and my clock is 10 minutes fast, her clock is 10 minutes slow. The clock in the station, God knows that's where that is now. What time is it? You know, things like that. Oh, and we had a lot of homework. We had to study those cards and everything and keep up to date with the schemes and stamp labels and so forth. Let's see.
How often did you practice?
I'm trying to remember how often you had to put those schemes up. I can't remember. And one time I went up there without studying. I thought I was a smart guy, you know. I'd taken New York City, and I'd been working it a couple years. I think I had to get 97%. And I didn't get it the first time. I said, give me 100 more cards. I didn't get it the second time. I said, give me 100 more cards. And this fellow, a good-natured fellow, he said to me, Bob, if you flunk it 3 times, something happens, you know, that's not nice, you know. Go home and study it. And I had to go home and study it, so you had it. And the first exam I had was Maryland, and I said, this is a cinch, you know. So I could only miss so many cards. Boy, the first time I threw it at home, I was surprised how many I missed. You had to study. Yeah. All right.
You want to talk about your time off?
Oh, that's one thing I forgot to mention. Yeah, that was my father was a railway mail clerk. Mm-hmm. My son just retired from the Postal Service. So there's about 90-some years here of useless activity. No. But they had 6 and 8s. When you made regular, you could work 6 days off 8. On the wash, because it was a short run, you might have to make 12 extra trips a year or something to make up the time. They had 6 and 6. They had 2 weeks on, 1 week off. And that was nice, I thought. That was nice. I got used to it. Yeah.
How did you spend your days off? Did you have another job?
I usually had a job, believe it or not. I had 2 kids and a wife, and I had a job. Actually, I had several different jobs, I had working on comptometers, they call them, adding machines or something. Then I took my wife's check. I met her in the army in Czechoslovakia. So I took her back in '57, and when I got home, I had about $100, so I had to get another job quick. I saw an ad in the paper that said, "Strong man wanted." So I said, "Geez, I wonder what that is." So I reported to this upscale neighborhood, and it was Dr. Wicks, his name was. He's a millionaire, and he was getting old and feeble and so forth, and they had a regular nurse for him, and they just needed some help. So I worked at that a couple years. And I tried to get a job driving a cab, but the boss in New York forbid it. He said, "No, I'm worried something happened to you, get shot or something." So they were nice, yeah.
What did your wife think about all those days you had to spend working in a row, away from home?
Away from home. It never bothered her.
Yeah.
It never bothered her. She knew her boy was, what would you say, helpless, hopeless. Let's see. And then when I became a PSO, I'd spend like 24 hours away from home. And then when I was subbing, sometimes I'd work 24 hours in the transfer office. Somebody couldn't come in, or this, that, and the other thing, So she never worried about it. She doesn't worry about it to this day. Oh, that's another thing. We also tried to get mail home that wasn't addressed to a post office. For instance, I live in Falling Waters, West Virginia, and that town is also called Marlow. It may have been a post office one day, but it no longer is. The fellow working in West Virginia, the fellow working in Maryland, the fellow working in New York City, they tried to build up their knowledge on these towns. You'd see Marlow, oh yeah, I'll send that to Falling Waters. Maybe they can get it home, Let's see, Zone 6 I was just looking at. Holland American Line is Zone 6. They put Holland American Line, New York, well, Zone 6. You try to know where the hospitals were. You try to know where Yankee Stadium was, Polo Grounds, hospitals, schools, Columbia University, 27 probably, Manhattanville. But you try to know the universities, Einstein, some college, Einstein, Bronx, I'm guessing where it is. Montefiore Hospital, I still remember that, 67. Some of them you look at, you remember, some of them don't ring a bell. Yeah.
What was the worst job to have inside the car?
Well, I like letter jobs, to tell you the truth. Some of them other jobs were pretty heavy. Yeah. I did have a nice job once, North Carolina, pouches and sacks and letters. I worked all three. Another guy works, a couple other guys worked North Carolina too. I liked that job. That was moved back and forth from the letters to North Carolina. But I had I suffered about 3 or 4 hernias, so I was looking for a letter job.
The pouches were pretty heavy.
Yeah.
The pouches were pretty heavy, and the sacks pretty heavy.
Yeah, some of them could pretty darn heavy. Yeah, I threw some sacks off. The people that was, I mean, it's a wonder somebody didn't get hurt. The pouch was, the sack would be this big, and you'd have to kick it off. And when it hit the ground, it would roll and roll, and people were waiting for trains and everything. And I remember the one when right in a little station they waited in when it was raining, you know. Oh, my, I said, I don't know about this. And then sometimes you'd cut the pouch up catching it. And inspectors didn't like that. I understand they had to walk for miles and pick up letters and so forth and so on. I enjoyed it very much. And I hope I'm not taking up too much time.
Yeah, what was your favorite thing about working? What was your favorite thing about working for the RPOs?
Well, I knew what I was doing most of the time. I like going to New York. I just bought some chewing gum and some mints. Cost me about, over $3. You know, I used to go to New York. I go see the Yankees play, $1.50 or something like that. Wednesdays, matinee, see Destry Rides Again with Andy Griffith. You know, see some guy from Hollywood in the Crucible. The food was plentiful. You'd eat at Patty's Clam House. Of course, you would, $1.50 or something. My mother gave me, I mean, not my mother, my wife, well, she sort of, give me $5. Go to New York, enjoy yourself. How'd you like to go to New York now with $5? No, it was all right. Yeah. And the guys, I swear they were, we never really had any trouble with anybody. And we were white guys, African Americans, had a good time. Yeah.
I have one clerk who mentioned that he knew the guys on his train car better than their families did. Did you get that feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I called this one fellow up when I received, a nice invitation to come here. Arthur Molander, I called him up. And he said, Bob, my wife just died, and I'm not up to it, And I said, excuse me. I says, Arthur, I remember when you used to sing real quiet, like the most beautiful girl in the world isn't Harlow, isn't Garbo, is my, his wife. And I got a mortgage, but what do I care, And, yeah, you didn't know them. Most of them were straight arrows. They were okay. Yeah. And when I first went out there, the older guys, we were like Second World War veterans, most of us, coming in. And they were First War veterans going out. And they let us know. They trained us more than, we didn't receive much training, We learned how to tie out a package, which was good. That was good to know. That's about all that we learned, But they let us know in no uncertain terms, you were out there to work and do it right. Because these guys, they come up the hard way. Depression. I remember a guy saying that he went to try to get a job in depression. He said to the guy, I'll work 35 cents an hour. The guy next behind, I'll work 25 cents. I'll work 15. I'll work for nothing. Yeah. He said, I'll never leave the Postal Service. Never.
Well, Bob, if you had, our time is coming close.
Yeah.
We've got another group coming in. If you had one thing you'd want to tell the public, about the railway post offices and the work, what would it be?
They got their money's worth. But we enjoyed giving it to them. We enjoyed work.
Oh, great. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank
Bob.
you.
Thank you.